Great day, beloved. Great day. Great day. And it is a great day indeed. Today, in fact, this morning, my son-in-law is taking my daughter to get her some breakfast, some pancakes, I believe, and then they're headed to the hospital where they're going to induce her, pregnancy, so that we will have a new addition to the family soon. Okay, so celebrate with me. I'm on cloud nine. And we also know that this morning, today, is for a lot of people Easter or Resurrection Sunday. So for those who observe that, happy Resurrection Sunday. So I'm excited also that this is episode 8 of season 2, which means that we're about 2 episodes from ending season 2. Isn't that amazing? So if you've been with me this whole time, I appreciate you. Just continue to plug in and share. And if you're new, we're just beginning. Okay. So this is, again, episode 8 of season 2. And before we get started, we always want to make sure that we create sacred space. We're always creating sacred space, that we're creating a safe container. So relax. If you're sitting, sit with your spine straight but not rigid. If you're lying down comfortably, do so. Close your eyes. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. And I say deep breath, I mean to feel your diaphragm, feel it extend. Baby breathing is what I call it. Baby breathing. Yeah. And look, anticipating my 5th grandbaby. So, baby breathing, take a deep breath in, let it out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose. Breath in, let it out slowly. Breath in, let it out slowly. This is a safe container. We're creating sacred space. I want you to visualize in the middle of your forehead where the pineal gland or your third eye is. And imagine a light, a glowing light, and a glowing globe, or however you imagine it for you. It could be any color. It is bright in the middle of your forehead, in between your eyebrows. Remember, deep breath in, and we breathe in positivity. We breathe in good things, those things that serve us well so we can serve others. Breathe out slowly through your mouth. And we exhale those things that no longer serve us. We exhale those things that are negative. Okay? And every breath you see, every breath you will begin to see that glow or that light growing brighter and brighter and brighter. This is to connect you, help you connect to source. Breathe in, breathe out. Deep breath in, breathe out slowly. This is sacred space. Welcome to Connecting the Source with Rev Stephon. And as always, I am your host, Rev Stephon. Today, we explore the powerful metaphysical meaning of Passover and the Exodus, the moment of spiritual liberation and new beginning. All right, so this is episode 8, season 2, Passover and the Exodus, spiritual liberation and new beginning. So as we have begun this season, we are providing more context. I wanted to provide more context in Scripture. So in Exodus 12 through 14, we witness the Passover ritual and the departure from Egypt and the crossing of the Red Sea. Right? And these events represent the complete liberation from limitation consciousness. Remember, this is, even though as we read the Bible and we read of certain people at a certain time, we want to know that the cultural aspects, the cultural context, the historical context, it's difficult to sort of pick those things up literally to place them into a contemporary context. So the thing that really transfers is the spiritual aspect, or that consciousness, what that event or those people or that place, that time, what they represent when it comes to consciousness. Okay, and so these events represent the complete liberation from limitation consciousness. We were not created for limitation. We were created to do greater things, right? We're a part of this creation work. We're co-creators in the universe. We're co-creators along with Source. Right, so Source, he created us. God created us so that we would be limitless. I'm gonna do a shameless plug here, but I look forward to a book or a guide called Superhuman. Okay, look for that. So put that plug there. So we were not created to have limitations or to live small. Okay, so this is that these events, the departure from Egypt, the Passover, the crossing of the Red Sea, they represent complete liberation from limitation consciousness and the beginning of the spiritual journey toward the promised fulfillment. Right, moving towards the promised land. Right, we're moving towards this on this spiritual journey, this promised fulfillment. So what about the historical context and the Passover, the history or the historical elements of the Passover? So it is a spring festival, timing connected to the agricultural cycles. Remember, we're still in Egypt, and it's highly. It's a high agricultural culture because of what? The Nile River, right? And so this season, right, correlates with and connected to the agricultural cycles. And lambs, right? Lambs are held. They held significant religious and practical importance. So, the blood of the lamb, right? The sacrifice of the lamb, and then also practical, right? For the food and clothing and other things. The blood marking followed ancient protective practices. So, again, I think last week I mentioned that blood marking, or using the lamb's blood to mark the door so that the death angel could go, that is connected to a much more ancient practice. Okay, so it did not originate with this incident, did not originate with the Hebrews. And then in that, there is this shared meal. So the Passover meal, the shared meal created community and solidarity. And that's community is super important. In this day and time in this country, United States, community is, really of very important. It's important that we get back to community. Now I'll leave that there. And then the nighttime timing related to the moon cycles and symbolic darkness to light transition. So remember, the plague of darkness challenged Ra, the sun god. Right. And so it was a moving from light to darkness. So now in this context of the Passover meal, we're back to darkness to light transition, moving from darkness to light. And this is connected to the moon cycle. And for those of you that for whatever reason find that astrology, which turned into the science of astronomy, is somehow sacrilegious or whatever. No, the tracking the moon, the cycles of the moon, the stars, all that kind of stuff were essential during this time, right? Essential, and it's still essential, even though we have technology that utilizes certain things to make sure that we are able to get from one place to the other. So these things are important. So we know that, as they come through and they're moving towards and out of Egypt and heading towards the Red Sea, that they're in pursuit, that the Egyptians are in pursuit. So what are the logistics here? The military capacity of the Egyptians included chariots, elite forces, and extensive resources. So, imagine that this effort, right, is so large. This pursuit of the Hebrews, this mixed band, if you will, heading towards the mountain so they could worship God, is that the Egyptians felt that, or the Pharaoh felt that it was worth spending the resources, worth the level of resources to pursue them. And then we have these geographical barriers that created natural boundaries and limited escape routes. So, right now they're in between the army, right? The chariots, they're in between the forces, the elite forces, and the Red Sea. And the Red Sea. And so the way of the Palestines, which is a direct route, was heavily fortified. So the direct of the Philistines, I meant the Philistines. The way of the Philistines in this was a direct route to where they were headed. However, it was heavily fortified. So these are some other things that they're up against. And then we had water barriers. So this included lakes, sea, and marshy regions. So, in this pursuit, in this effort to move, this spiritual journey, there are all of these things, right, that are represented here as geographical and military, and also, other enemies, right, as they are moving towards liberation. Right. And so what am I saying? I'm saying that, it's not going to be easy. Your spiritual journey is not going to be easy. There are going to be old habits and different things that are going to continue to pursue you. You're going to run into new obstacles. There are going to be individuals that, challenge your journey. You also, more so the things inside of you, too, that are going to pursue you or going to put up obstacles, okay, on your journey. So these historical elements provide a concrete understanding of both the practical challenges and symbolic significance of the Exodus events. Okay, so again, this is scriptural. The scriptural connections are found in Exodus 12-14, which is the primary text, and the Passover is continued as remembrance in Exodus, specifically Exodus 12-14. The Red Sea crossing is referenced throughout the scripture as the liberation archetype. Right, so this Red Sea crossing, right, throughout Scripture is looked at as the liberation architect. So even when it comes to our people, Africans in America, that this liberation, right, this crossing of the Red Sea is the archetype that many enslaved used, to garner hope. Even though a lot of these things these stories were kept from them, these things that they were able to draw upon and grasp upon, to as a liberation that there is going to be a Moses. And so we know that Moses showed up in the person of Harriet Tubman and others, right? So there's still a liberation motif or archetype that we depend on even to this day. Baptism in the New Testament is connected to the Red Sea crossing. So you can look at 1 Corinthians 10, 1 and 2. Okay. So as we look at the baptism, in the New Testament, because what? We go in as one person, and we come out, with liberation. We come out a new person. We now are liberated from those things that held us in the past. Okay. So this consciousness, we talk about consciousness. There's this Passover consciousness, the lamb selection and preparation. So picking the right lamb and preparing it according to the instruction with the specific herbs. So choosing a perfect blemished lamb represents identifying and embracing divine perfection, right? Embracing the divine perfection consciousness as protection against limitation. Okay, so this choosing of the perfect blemished lamb, it represents us identifying and embracing divine perfection consciousness as protection against limitation. Or again, we are co-creators. We were not created to play small, to live small, to have limitations. So the 4-day examination period symbolizes a thorough spiritual preparation, right? So this is a thorough spiritual preparation. Okay, so then we have the meal, we have the selection of the lamb, and then there is what? You also utilizing the lamb, not just, for food and then clothing, but also, using the blood on the doorpost. So the marking of the lintel and doorpost with blood represents conscious protection of our mental dwelling place, thoughts that enter in the doorway and thoughts that reside within the home. Okay, the blood symbolizes life essence applied consciously. Okay, so this marking is, it represents on a spiritual level, okay, or a conscious level, that we are consciously protecting our mental dwelling, protecting it from thoughts that may enter, like negative thoughts and limiting thoughts, and what we call stinking thinking. Okay, and then we know that for those who mark their door, the lintel and their door, the death angel passes over, right? So now for those who didn't, for whatever reason, and we know the firstborn was killed. So this death angel, death passing over, this divine protection through conscious alignment with spiritual principle. This isn't arbitrary. This isn't an arbitrary selection, but a demonstration of spiritual law. Where divine consciousness dwells, limitation cannot penetrate. Repeat that, okay? Where divine consciousness dwells, limitation cannot penetrate. So we develop this divine consciousness, and then wherever we hold this divine consciousness in our hearts and our minds, then limitation cannot penetrate. Okay, so now they had to, the preparation and the type of meal was to be eaten in haste. Okay, so this eating in haste and then going out, and also going to the door of the Egyptians, and the Egyptians giving them possessions and things like that. But the moving in haste, the eating in haste, fully dressed, right? They're supposed to be doing this. They're fully dressed, ready to go, sandals on feet, staff in hand, right? It represents complete readiness for transformation. You have to be ready and completely ready for transformation to happen. So, this eating in haste and this preparation to be able to move, ready to move, fully dressed, sandals on feet, and staff in hand. So, spiritual liberation requires readiness to move beyond familiar limitations. So what are familiar limitations? We all have a comfort zone. So the comfort zone, the things that God wants for you, the things that God has already created and preordained, predestined for you to participate in, to have and possess, lives outside of your comfort zone. Okay. Anything you want in life, anything that is for you, most of the time lives outside of your comfort zone. So we have to be able to move to a point of being uncomfortable. Okay. So again, spiritual liberation requires readiness to move beyond familiar limitations immediately when the opportunity appears. Let's put a pin here. Just on a practical note. So I'm an entrepreneur, been an entrepreneur for a long time. I've been involved in entrepreneurship since I was a kid. Grew up around a lot of entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneur women. And what I've found over the years is that successful people who are successful, right? They make a decision quickly. They move quickly. They make a decision quickly, and then they're slow to change their mind. Okay, they decide quickly, and they change their mind slowly. But unsuccessful people, for some reason, they make decisions slowly and change their minds quickly. Okay, so here is spiritual. This is spiritual proof. If you want to move beyond your limitations, you have to be prepared to move immediately when the opportunity appears. When the opportunity knocks at the door, and here's, let me do this before I pull this pen out. Okay, let me do this. So I've run into church folk or Christians, and I'm doing air quotes, that when even opportunity to minister, opportunity to do more in ministry, will inevitably say, I have to pray on it. I have to pray. That having to pray on it means that you're not prepared. Having to pray on it means that you are still in your comfort zone. Having to pray on it means that you dwell in limitation consciousness. They said they were prepared. They ate in haste, and they did not. They had their clothes and their shoes or sandals, their staff. They were ready to move when the opportunity presented itself. That's the reason why a lot of us, live limited lives. We don't take full advantage of the abundance that God has made available, because we make decisions slowly. We have to pray. So, pull the pen out. Wow. So now this Exodus journey, leaving with Egyptian gifts. Remember I said that they were ready to move. They knocked on the doors. They were instructed to knock on the doors, and they did not leave empty-handed. So this leaving with Egyptian gifts, this receiving gold, silver, and clothing from Egyptians represents how even limitation experience provide valuable resources for the freedom journey. Oh, so it's people who don't want to make mistakes, or they dwell on the mistakes. Isn't the mistakes inside of the mistakes are the lessons? Inside of the failure is really the map to your future. Okay, so now the Egyptians represents this point in time of their limitations when the Hebrews were slaves. But now these Egyptians represent how even limitation experiences provide valuable resources for the freedom journey. Nothing is wasted in spiritual development, right? Not even setbacks. Nothing is wasted in spiritual development. And so we know that there is this mixed multitude that are departed, a mixed multitude. So this mixed multitude, this means that not just Israelites, but a mixed multitude left with them, showing how liberation consciousness attracts diverse elements. We're better because of diversity. And I know that there is this all-out assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is I'm telling you, that is a mark. That is a starting point of the true destruction of this country. Getting away, moving away, not embracing diversity. Okay, so this mixed multitude that left it shows how liberation consciousness attracts diverse elements. This represents the gathering of all consciousness aspects when transformation occurs. It's the gathering of all the aspects of consciousness as we move towards transformation on this spiritual journey. Okay, and we know that there was a pillar of cloud that went before them, a pillar of cloud and fire that went before them, and so this divine guidance, this is divine guidance manifesting in appropriate form for each circumstance, right? So the fire is at night, right? Illumination, and the pillar of cloud during the day. Divine guidance manifesting in appropriate form. So whatever your circumstance or situation is, the divine guidance is going to show up. It's going to show up in the appropriate form, whatever that form is for you, for your transformation at that moment, right? That's how divine guidance is going to show up. A cloud by day, right, which is visible in light, and fire by night, which is visible in darkness. This reveals how spiritual guidance adapts to our current consciousness state, right? So whatever our state of consciousness is, right, spiritual guidance will adapt to it so that you're able to see in whatever situation. At the end, and here is the thing, at the end of 40 years to the very day, this is when the Exodus occurs, so the precise timing and fulfillment. This demonstrates divine timing, precision, and spiritual unfoldment. We operate by clocks and calendars, which is chronos time, but spiritually, God, just our spiritual guide, our source, our creator, operates in kairos time. Kairos, right? This is divine timing. Divine timing. At the end of 430 years to the very day, the Exodus occurred. This demonstrates divine timing, precision, and spiritual unfoldment, neither delayed nor premature. Okay? Neither delayed. So it's going to be on time, but it's not going to be before its appointed time. Perfectly timed for maximum effectiveness. Perfectly timed for maximum effectiveness. So now we're at the Red Sea. This Red Sea crossing is facing the impossible. The Israelites stood between the sea and the pursuing army. This is representing the spiritual threshold moment when transformation seems impossible, caught between old limitation and uncrossable barriers. Moses' rod is outstretched, his outstretched hand, spiritual authority, activated through intentional use, This demonstrates how consciousness must participate in its own liberation through faith action. Intentional. You have to live intentional. It has to be intentionality, right? Then the waters parting. The division of seeming barriers, creating a pathway through impossibility. Right? So this barrier that seemed like it was, uncrossable. This barrier that seems that now all of a sudden the journey has ended, separates. There's a pathway that's created. A pathway created through what seemed impossible to get through. Right? This is how divine law creates passage where human perception sees none. It's how divine law, God, source, creates passage where our human perception sees none. All it sees is barriers. All it sees are giants. And then we have the complete destruction of the old limitation in that the waters that had receded, they come back in and they engulf the pursuing army. The sea returning to cover the pursuing army represents the complete dissolution of old limitation patterns, making return impossible. So true spiritual limitation includes the removal of the possibility of returning to former bondage. Okay? There's no going back. You burn the ships. You burn the ships. There's no going back. This is what true spiritual liberation includes. So let me do this for just on a personal note. After years in going to church, to a building, a church house or whatever you want to call it, after years of doing that, I have personally taken myself out of what I call parish type ministry, and I've gone to digital format. That's what this podcast is about. So I have to be all in, and I am all in. I am all in. Not to say that I wouldn't visit upon invitation. I still have pastor friends and loved ones that go to church. But for my own spiritual edification and growth, no. I'm all in. I'm moving forward. I've been liberated, and I can't go back to, and I'm going to say this, to the former bondage, institutionalized church. That really was devised to place limitations on spiritual people. From the Council of Nicaea and all these different things that came down through Rome, and the organizing of the Roman Catholic Church, and the subsequent Protestant churches and denominations, all these sort of things like that, committees and all these things right here were put into place to put limitations on spiritual people. I'll leave it at that. So we always want to be, practical, right? So the Passover protection practice, we want to put these things into practice. Applying spiritual protection to consciousness. That is your Passover protection practice. Always, because limitations will pursue you, stinking thinking will continue to pursue you. So you want to apply this spiritual protection to your consciousness. And then there's the liberation preparation, right? You have to be fully clothed, right? Have your sandals on your feet and your staff in your hand. These are steps to prepare for spiritual breakthrough. You have to be prepared, ready to go. And then the Red Sea, faith in action. Remember that Moses, he raised his arms, he raised his staff, and then when he got tired, he had people around him that held him up. This was faith in action. This was intentional. So that activating spiritual authority in impossible situations. This was an impossible situation, but remember that the spirit that source, will create a pathway when our human limitation sees none. And then the new beginning, consciously initiating your freedom journey, consciously initiating your freedom journey. Make that a conscious move and don't go back. Do not go back. Okay? So that ends episode 8. Again, we're about 2 episodes out of, ending season 2. And I hope that you have enjoyed it. Remember to go back over the podcast. You can go back and revisit as we move forward. So we'll close out with a brief meditation. Remember, again, you make sure that you're in a comfortable space. You can close your eyes, envision, the light representing your third eye. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. One more. Breathe in, breathe out. Concentrate and focus on your breathing. Center into liberation consciousness. Feel the Passover protection. Experience the Exodus journey beginning. And know the Red Sea parting in your life. Breathe in, hold it, breathe out slowly. Remember, so this week, as we move forward, remember to apply spiritual protection to your consciousness. Recognize valuable gifts from limitation experiences, right? There are valuable gifts in the limitation. There's valuable gifts in the failure. There's no failure. Follow divine guidance appropriate to your circumstance. Pillar of fire, pillar of smoke, pillar of cloud. Take faith action when facing impossible situations. Be intentional. And until next week, remember, empower, embrace, and witness the unfolding of the impossible turning into possible, and the ordinary changing into extraordinary. So empower your purpose, embrace your journey, and witness the extraordinary unfold. Peace, love, and light, beloved.